After inspecting the boat that you are already interested in, you might have a question about how the repair costs are going to be. Or you might have already bought it because you really love that boat and you would like to see how much money that you are going to spend. In this video, I will talk about this important topic. Let's see. The money that you are going to spend about depends on so many things. And first one is, I think, which season are you in? For example, is it sailing season? In this case, you might want to sail as soon as possible because you don't want to miss this season and you would like to spend as much as time in your own boat. In that case, you need to at least make sure that you can put that boat in the water and you should be able to use it safely. And if that's the case, then you might consider about at least checking the areas that you were not able to check during your inspection. That means you should see every hidden areas. I mean, the areas, for example, under some boards or behind the panels and etc. And if you do that, well, maybe you can get away with, let's say, leaking windows and also a few minor issues and such. Also, there are a few corrosions, for example. Well, you can live with those. They are not going to go bad over a season, for example, especially if you are going to use it in sweet water. So let's talk about the boat that I bought. Let's assume this is my boat. And the boat that I have has a few issues. For example, leaking windows. All of the windows and hatches are actually leaking. And of course, I would like to fix that issue sooner or later. But if I was in a sealing season, I wouldn't do that because that would mean so much work and also you need to spend so much time for fixing stuff. I would maybe just deal with it or do a temporary fix, like for example, tapes and such, and wait for the winter. If that's not the case, and if it's already winter, you probably want to do more than that. Talk about the boat that I already bought. In the boats that I have bought, there are a few areas that I couldn't check. For example, this is the toilet area, and I was able to see under the floor tiles on these areas, but I couldn't see these areas and these areas. So I would like to get an access. So I really want to see that place. Maybe I can cut an observation point or something like that. Maybe I can see what is hidden underneath it. And also, I have these seats here and also another seat here. And this is the kitchen area. And this is the bed area. So apart from this area, I couldn't remove the floor tiles onto the seat area. So at least I would like to cut a observation box under here. And also I couldn't observe this area as well. It's pretty minor and I would like to make sure if it is safe to sail. Apart from that, I have also a few areas where basically I couldn't get access to. So first thing I would do is checking these areas and also here as well. First thing I would like to do is making sure that all these areas are safe and no issues whatsoever. Usually, when buying a boat, material costs shouldn't really scare you because most of the time, the materials are the cheapest part. However, amount of the time that you would be spending time on fixing the issues is a little bit hard to estimate. So just for the materials, for example, you might be paying like $100. However, if you would like to hire someone else to do it, it might easily cost you thousands of dollars maybe. So we are talking about still the sailing season. And in this case, I would assume that all the hidden areas which you couldn't access during the inspection, you should expect the worst. For example, I would assume that these areas are in pretty bad condition because, well, you couldn't see it and you don't know. And then you should think about doing a major rework. I wouldn't buy any boat which has structural issues. And if you bought those, you should also consider about fixing those because you need to have a few skills and you need to improve your maintenance or fixing the skills. Or in my case, welding skills. But you can learn all of them, but they will cost so much time. And in this regard, you need to spend so much time. And if that's the sealing season, you might miss it. And you might need to spend all your time in the marina, not in the water, but in the land. So that's one factor. These areas should be as minimum as possible. And let's go to the numbers. So I would expect that there is a huge issue here, but also I did the hammer test, but I couldn't hear any sound differences. But there's a chance that the thick paint might be confusing me. So let's go to the numbers now. If you, let's say, bow the steelboat and the damaged area is 1 square meters, buying a metal sheet in these dimensions are not that expensive. For easy calculations, I assume it to be $50 or euros. Note that the boat that I have has 3 mm metal sheet thickness. Of course, you should always check the local prices. And you don't need to be really accurate, but you should be able to make rough estimates. So it's not really that much, but let's assume that I have 3 square meters of area that I need to fix. There is no harm in overestimating things, but let's go with this calculation. And 3 times 50 is $150 or euros. But this isn't only the money that you are going to spend. You might damage some stuff, for example, some floor tiles and etc. And in that case, I would just multiply it by 2, and it will add up to like $300. So we are still not sure whether or not we can use the boat this year. If there are problems that you need to solve them immediately, you might need to get the boat out of the water and spend time on the shipyard. So buying a boat during an off-season has more advantages, I think. You should also consider about these factors because the time that you might be spending time on fixing the issues might take more than you anticipated. A professional maybe solved an issue in 1 hour maybe, but if you don't know how to fix it, it might maybe cost you a few days. And it's not really an overestimation. For polymer boats, I think you can use the same numbers because these numbers are only estimates for you to guess the material costs. The prices will not really change that much depending on the boat type, whether it is a steel boat or a polymer boat. Let's say you bought the boat during the off season, then how I would do the cost estimation? Well, let's put the $300 here just for parking, and let's check what you want to fix. And for example, if you would like to fix the glasses, well, they are not really that expensive either. Again, it's an old estimation, and I would talk about like $50 for it. Of course, it depends on what type of stuff that you buy, but I will only talk about the cheapest options here. Of course, you can go really high in the numbers, or you might be lucky and get a pretty lower number from the location that you have, or maybe it might be even free because you already have the items. But let's assume that you don't have any of its advantages, and also you are just going to do it from your side. And 1 square meter of the glass, I mean, I have plexiglass in my boat, so it's, let's say, again, $50. And maximum amount of the area that I have in my boat is like 50 times 2, it is $100. And also you need to buy, let's say, chemicals and etc. and other stuff. And again, I will just multiply by 2. Material cost would be $200. But there is one thing that I didn't really take into account of. For example, during the replacing the glass, you might need to cut the area under the glass itself and weld the new piece. Maybe, for example, let's assume this is the grass area. And over the years, for example, there might be some corrosion in this area. And in that case, to fix that, you need to cut all these areas. And again, I'm just doing a rough estimation, but of course you need to calculate all of the time. But in this case, you need to, let's say, cut that type of steels exactly with the same size of the metal sheet that you cut from the boat. Mine is 3 millimeter. Also, of course, between the here and here and here. So then you need to weld these places. And to estimate it, you can just put rough numbers, give you like total amount of 1 meter square sheet size. Or let's put it 2. And it was $50 again. So another $100. And again, rough estimations, and always I multiply it by 2 and $200. And if you sum up those, it's going to be like $400. So our cost is around $700 for the fixing the boat. Of course, I am doing the worst case scenarios, and I think in the boats that I have, I don't need to cut all these pieces because I was able to see from the other side of the boat, and the area was fine. They only sealed one side of the, let's say, metal, and other side was quite visible. But in some boats, they have some sort of gasket which is just covering all the way area. Then you may not be able to see those areas, and you need to cut it and make your own estimate. And I am just continuing. Right now, we have $700. On top of the boat, I have a few corrosion issues, especially in the areas where ropes are attached. And usually these areas are pretty corroded. And I think I can still use the one that I have material left on the connection point. Then it would mean like just you need to cut it entirely and weld a new one. And also that will add up also the cost that you need to consider. $100 here as well. And it is around $800. So you complain all the weldings and assume the worst, it will not be that much, of course. You may only need to spend maybe $100, but I am giving right now to the worst estimations. That is why the inspection of the boat and making sure everything works is really important. And I think I don't need to spend any money on the, let's say, metal area which covers the glass. So in that regard, well, I can just estimate those prices do not exist for me. I am just giving you an idea, then you can actually use similar calculations for yourselves. Then next calculation. So in my boat, I have seats here and also the bed area. And these areas, the cushions were smelling a little bit. Well, maybe you don't want to do it, or maybe if you want to do it, you should also consider whether or not you can wash them or not. For example, I think I can just wash some of them here and also some of the side cushions here in the washing machine. So I wouldn't consider them as a really expensive factor or anything to even worry about. But the ones which are on the here are pretty thick, and they will not fit in the washing machine. So you should get a professional cleaning. And I went to a professional cleaner, steam cleaner, and they gave me around $100. And if you can manage to clean them yourselves, of course, you don't need to do that. But, well, it's up to you. And I'm just gonna add it here as well. So right now, it is $900 just for the cleaning. So right now, we have $900. And now we can talk about the paint. And there are a few type of paints, and the major one of them is autofoiling. And also, let's assume this is the boat that you have, and this is the water line. You apply autofoiling to the water line only, and you do that every year unless you weld it as a hard paint. Then in that case, you can apply it less, maybe in 5 or 10 years. But most of the boats have this yearly antifoiling paint. And I looked the prices for a type of paint, and a can of this is around $50. My boat is from one side to another 8.35 meter. And in this case, I talked with the paint seller, and he told me that I need to buy at least 3 of them to cover entire boat. And in this case, another $150. But one minor note here, for example, if you have, let's say, a few areas where you can see actually the metal, then you need to use primer for that as well. And also, usually, if that's under the, let's say, water line, the primer is a little bit expensive than the regular primer. So again, it is $50. You can check your local prices as well, but I want to make this estimation as simple as possible for yourself. Also, you will be on the spot, and you only need to decide that calculation on your head right on the spot. So this is the purpose of this video. I think it was mostly okay, but one, let's say, package of paint of the primer will be enough for me. And it is adding up $200. And I don't see any unforeseen, let's say, issue here. So you can get up with just $200 here. And right now we have $1,100 estimation. So again, this is your boat, and this is the water line. But sometimes you may want to, let's say, touch up the paints on the top. And actually, you don't need to repaint it. You can just go with it and just do minor changes. And for those, even if you don't expect it, you at least need one box of paint. And the top paint is usually cheaper, but also it depends on what type of paint that you buy. But again, I'm just going to make a really simple estimation for yourself. And let's assume primer plus the paint is $100. It might be quite cheaper than that, but let's say it 100. Probably you want to change the name of the boat itself. Well, it's just miscellaneous stuff. I wouldn't consider it as a payment at all. Just $100 estimation is enough. Also, if you would like to replace entire paint, need to check a little bit in more details. But let's assume that you don't need to do that because we like the paint. And that sums up to $1,200. In my boat, the rudder was quite corroded. I think I can just fix it, that's not really an issue. I just needs a bit of things. I don't will take into account of extra, let's say, spanning. I can just use the parts and paint that I bought, so I will still keep it in $1,200. In this boat also, here is the kitchen area, and the cabinet here had issues with the opening and closing and that kind of stuff. Then you need to think about fixing those. Let's say if you would like to fix only minor part of it, then, and also I'm assuming that you would like to do all the repairs yourself again, then check about the prices that you need to pay. And in this case, I will add $100. Just multiply it with the area that you have. For example, if you would like to, let's say, update this area, then another 100. I'm talking about sheet wood here. I don't want to entirely replace the, let's say, kitchen area or anything. Then this is a nice estimate. But this is, again, an area that I am not really sure of. If you have issues with estimation, then of course you just multiply it, and then we are in 1200 branch. So let's see another expense that I think I should be spending. So in the kitchen area, there are a few issues. I cannot open and close the area itself, and it's pretty annoying. It's not urgent or anything, but definitely if I have time, I would like to fix it. And then we are at the 1200s. Right now, I'm thinking about the non-urgent stuff. So this boat, in this boat, in the kitchen area, the cabinet doesn't really work well, and I would like to fix that issue. Sooner the better, because it will affect the comfort that you are going to have because you would like to use the kitchen, etc. And I'm again doing rough estimates, but my guess would be around $100 just for the wood itself. And also, I am not really sure how much I need to do, And if you have that kind of, let's say, question on your head, usually you just multiply it depending on the confidence that you have. And here, I assume I need to spend 2 times more and $200 just for the kitchen. And also, let's say, bed area and also the bottom part of the, let's say, boat didn't have any issues, but it had a little bit of sound. Maybe it's not really sitting properly or anything. I mean, the wood and the panels that's on the, let's say, hull, not really entirely other parts that you have, but the one that's used as, let's say, access panels down on the boat itself. And I expect to replace all of them because I'm not sure if they are going to be okay or not. But, well, if you would like to just replace it with something nice, then you should consider it as well. And I checked the wood prices. I, of course, didn't look for the teak because it's inside of the cabin. So the regular wood is not really expensive. So I want to replace all these floor tiles because since I'm going to just access that areas, probably I will just damage them. You should always expect this. And if you would like to replace it and want to go with the cheap one, well, $100 is enough. But if you want to buy a nice one, a nice one, you want to go maybe $500, depending on the wood type that you want. Now let's take the middle one and $250. And of course, uncertainties, I multiplied with 2, it's 500. And 500 and 200, it's adds $700 more. And we are around $1,900 bracket. Now we have $1,900. We don't even talk about the engine. If it is really old, then of course you need to replace it. Removing and installing a new engine might be pretty hard, but you need to assume that you might need a new engine. A new engine can be very expensive. For example, this engine is very similar to the one that I already have on the boat, and almost like 10,000 euros. And if you go to this route, I mean, just if you want to try fixing your own engine that you already have, it's pretty hard to estimate because you need to remove entire engine, and also you need to make a research about how to fix that issues as well. I will come back to that video later on, and then we can talk about it. But at least, you know, even if everything is working fine, fuel plus oil filters should be replaced. And also, you need to replace the oils, both engine plus the transmission. Also, you might need to replace the belt. Probably you can buy all that done with kits. If you happen to send your car for maintenance, the maintenance for your boat will be more or less same. For this, I will guess a small number, and let's say it's like $500. And the reason for estimating that low amount is because I decided to trust the previous owner. And also, I didn't pay that much for the boat itself, so it's not going to matter for me that much. And I also talked with the marine master, and he told me that the boat was working fine. So I choose to just trust them. But it's matter of price issue. Whether to believe the previous owner or not would actually reveal itself in the future. So I took another risk here. If you have major issues, then it might be similar to the engine price, but I will come to that later on. So you just need to trust your own instincts, I guess. Or worst case, consider buying a new engine and add up to the price if you have questions about the engine. So right now, it costs around $2,400. Let's call it $2,500. And it's only for the material that I am expecting to spend money on. So no workmanship or hiring someone is included over here. And also, if some parts are broken, for example, winches and etc., you need to pay for them as well. Since it's a sailboat, then you should, of course, check the sails as well. Of course, if you need to buy new sails for the sailboat, usually they are more expensive than the money that you spend for an old sailboat. Forget about all those, but let's assume that we need to spend 2,500 for just the materials. And if you want to, let's say, hire someone, a professional to do that job for you, you should easily add 1 0 right next to it. And so it's equal to $25,000. It's a quite sum of money. Also, it's not really an overestimation. Actually, I think it's more or less a reasonable estimation. Let me remind you, I only paid $2,000 for this boat. The repair costs can cost much more than the boat that you actually paid for. So always keep it in mind and be ready for that kind of surprises. If you are not willing to learn new skills to fix the problems on your boat, maybe it's a good idea to look for a newer boat than you are already interested in. Because usually they will have less problems and it's equal to spending less money on the repairs itself. Let me know what you think about this estimation and share with me what you think about it down in the comments. And if you like this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up and see you next time.